Hello and welcome to Hybrid Fitness Report, episode 29. Apologies for our 3-week unscheduled gap. It's been a very travel-heavy 3 weeks. And as we speak, you are in England, you being Jude Reynolds, and I'm currently in Neuss, just outside Dusseldorf, in our alternative studio with some fantastic microphone equipment. So I'm loving it here. But we've been together and apart and going to all sorts of places in the last few weeks, which is most of what we'll catch you up on today. But I've completely forgotten to let Jude introduce himself. He's going to do that now. Go on, Jude. Who are you?
My name's Jude Reynolds.
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough.
I actually do exist, so hello.
No one really cares. But welcome anyway.
Brilliant.
So since we last podcasted, you've been doing a lot and I've been doing a little bit, but both of us have, I think, fair to say, improved and been happy with our performances over the last couple of weeks. So the events we want to mainly talk about today that one or both of us has been at is, first of all, Hyrox Miami, where Jude did his. That's your first American event. Is it your first American Hyrox?
Yes, I mean, yeah, first
American Hyrox. And I did my first solo since Vancouver, which came after, as we spoke about in the pod before, a couple of months of not doing very much that was useful for Hyrox. And after that, a week after that, Jude then did the first Deadly Dozen main event of the year. That was up in Macclesfield. So there's been one since in Leicester where Dave Parkin beat his own world record, smashed his own world record again. So Jude had some fighting words with Jay Curtis at the end of the Macclesfield event. So I'll probably throw that back at him in about 15 minutes to see what he thinks now. But Jude had a great event up there at Deadly Dozen, and then this weekend just gone, we were both down in Malaga. I say down because we're both north of that now, albeit me less than him. I'm in Germany, but yeah, we're both down in Malaga with Zaid. Zaid making his Hyrox singles debut. Me going for my 4th and Jude going for his umpteenth, and that was a very interesting event. So looking forward to chatting about that. So first of all, back to Miami then, Jude. What were your first impressions of the event?
The event and the course itself, I thought was super clean. I really liked the venue. I think maybe if we start from the bottom, such as things like the course layout, it was 2 laps. So obviously not the coveted 1 lap, but the next best thing. So I think super easy to count with 2 laps. Like there's no counting involved with 1 lap, and there's almost none with 2 as well. So in terms of missing laps or doing extra laps,
great for older people. We love it.
Yeah, exactly. So those neurologically sort of regressed, it's no issue, or less of an issue. So really good there. The venue itself, like the running course was wide, like there was minimal bunching, to be honest. Like obviously you get set off, your wave gets set off, and then you get sort of the few terrified, poor, onlookers that are just running down their side of the track that you sort of dodge for the first 100 meters.
You're talking about us neurologically challenged people again.
Well, and muscularly, don't worry.
Neurologically and muscularly challenged people like me. Okay, This is getting better.
Yeah,
Carry on.
Yeah. Dig myself a hole here. And yeah, I think the running course was fine. I wouldn't say there are any congestive issues with the course. The warm-up area I actually really liked. I put something up about that on my YouTube. I really liked it because there were a plethora of assault runners. Usually what happens, or occasionally what happens in warm-up areas, is obviously Hyrox is 50% running. So in your warm-up, you should always be including some running. And often there aren't any assault runners. And if there aren't any assault runners, you want a good outdoor or indoor space to be able to run. And often there isn't. So the fact that it had both a good space to run outside and also some assault runners in the warm-up area with a bunch of skis, with a bunch of stretching space, meant that you could warm up if you got there in time very thoroughly without much of an issue. So again, sort of logistically, the lead up to the race, the course was all very smooth in that respect. I don't know if you found it the same, or if you thought, or if your experience was a bit like you didn't really know what to expect, or what did you think?
I mainly noticed the big space in the middle. So it was a wide
of the venue itself.
Yeah, it was a wide course, and spectator-wise, it was better than a lot of them have been. I mean, for your event, it's always hopelessly bunched. You're 6 deep trying to lean over people. Well, that used to be the case. It was a bit easier for me this time because more people were looking at you, and I was talking to people about you on the course. So that was kind of funny. Not as many as people who was talking about Hunter McIntyre, who was also racing, but you were there, and that seems to be increasingly interesting to folks. My abiding memory of the first part of Miami was actually at check-in, because when I went to athlete check-in, the lady put 2 bands on. And I said, it'd been a while, and I couldn't remember why I had 2 bands rather than just the one. So I said, "Is one of them a spectator band? And which one is it?"
Oh yeah.
And she goes, "I don't think it's a spectator band." And she paused and looked to her colleague and said, "I think it's to do with bench press." I'm like, she's trying to be funny, right? Nope, she's definitely not trying. She turned to her colleague and goes, "It's how much they can bench, right?" He said, "Because I've given some people a black band and you've got a silver band, and I think that means you bench more." And I'm like, "I'm pretty sure that's not it." And her colleague came over and just looked at her and going, "Yeah, that's a spectator band." "Oh, right, okay, spectator band. So like, oh, so just for a moment there, I thought I had a special wristband for bench pressing more than your average men's open singles competitor. But
the fact that wasn't a skit is crazy to me. I mean, Hyrox, look at your staff. What's going on? That is unbelievable.
I just love the fact that she's been putting hundreds of wristbands on people, and every single time she's going to be looking at them going, he benches more than I thought, or whoa, he doesn't bench as much as he should do. So that was going on. But yeah, the venue seemed really great, and I think I don't know why we were afraid of this, but I think we were both slightly concerned that because Miami had this reputation, we were looking up Miami online in terms of how quick was it as a course, and we were seeing a bunch of outdated references to I think 2023, where they did it literally on the beach. So this was in Miami Beach, capital B, the area of Miami. Whereas before it's been on the beach, and they said, "Oh yeah, Miami is very humid, it'll be really difficult." And we're going, "Oh no, this is going to be a nightmare." And of course it wasn't. It was in a massive air-conditioned warehouse like all of them are. So everything was great. The venue was great. Everything, the organisation, up to and including the comical wristband misrepresentation, was great. So yeah, I had no particular impressions other than this looks like a nice course. They all seem to have bridges now, so that's good. In fact, the only place recent memory that I think Malaga didn't just have a bridge; it had a bridge and a crossing point. So there were mums with buggies going across, and there'd be a judge waving at you in the middle of the course, trying to stop the flow of runners and put a barrier in front of half the course so that she could get let across, mum or dad with a buggy, which was slightly nuts. But in terms of just trying to stop people, but yeah, it was great. So who was first in Miami? Was it you or me? Who went first? It's usually me. Wasn't
you?
It was
you.
It was me. Okay, yeah. It's Malaga. Yeah. It was slightly squished, but yeah. So I went first in Miami, and this was the event. If you listen to previous podcasts, where I was trying to back out right up until about 2 days before, and Jude wouldn't let me because I thought I'm kind of chunky and slow, and just I haven't been training properly, and except it's about a month before Miami, I got back on it. And Jude said, "Well, I'll provide you with the baseline, like you won't be slower than that again for a few years," kind of thing. And hopefully that's true. I ended up with a 1:39.54. I didn't really care about the time, although it was nice not to have a 40-something. So it was nice to keep it in the 30s. Just what was more interesting to me was how nothing felt easier, but everything felt more controlled. And when we talk about Malaga, it was the more so there. I just felt like I was in control of what was going on at the station. So not everything felt like some cataclysmic near-death experience like wall ball sometimes does, and lunges definitely can do. They were brutally difficult at times, but I just felt like I was managing what I was doing, and I was pacing myself.
And I think part of that is because you went in with no pressure, and so it wasn't, I have to savor every single second on every station to get the time I want. So it wasn't a sort of absolute manic rush to go through the push and take as minimal breaks as possible. Same with the burpees. Like I have to cut my breath. So when I pause at the bottom from 3 to 1.5 to make up seconds here, it would just go in, don't walk, and just keep everything consistent. And that's what you did. So I think that kind of helped.
Careful, we're not Nike.
I don't know how many people would get that reference, but
don't walk. Honestly, just the persecution I get from this guy. So yeah, I like to not walk. I like to not walk in those, but partly because or perhaps mainly because once I walk, I don't want to start running again. It's not that you shouldn't walk. It's because some people like go hard in certain places, walk through the rock zone. They might be quicker than that. For me, if I start walking, I'm like, wow, this is less hard work than running. Let's do this instead. I won't want to get going again. So anyway, so that was me. Warbles were still a hot mess. I mean, sub 10, but still a hot mess. But not, as I said, not so much of an existential crisis as last time. So you, though, were up against some people other than Hunter McIntyre.
Competition.
They were okay. I mean, Hunter McIntyre's been around a little bit. He's done a couple of things. Frederick Dubé, French-Canadian guy. Did you mention he's ex-CrossFit?
I might have, but yeah, he is.
Yeah, ex-CrossFit guy.
He's been to the games, I think, 3 times in teams. So he came 5th one year. So very accomplished.
So he's got game. Jack Driscoll, who's been winning basically everything in America. I think he's got 5 wins just in the last 6 months, which is kind of amazing. So some big guys at the top end, and I think you were kind of hoping for 4th going into it, weren't you?
Yeah, I predicted myself 6th because there was a French athlete that I forget the name of who had a quicker time than I did at the time. And also Grayson Kilgore was meant to be lining up, who didn't in the end because of a shoulder injury, or at least caution or something like that. So he'd end up lining. So I went in thinking 6th is sort of best case scenario.
And then how did that pan out? Well, first thing that panned out from a spectator's point of view, the first thing that panned out is that Hunter went off like a rocket, and within, I think by the sled push, well, even leaving the skio, but certainly by the sled push, Hunter had 30 seconds plus on everybody, and he just looked ridiculous. I mean, you've seen him on live streams a lot, but in the flesh, it's quite something. The way he starts, The reason that he had such a gap going into the sled push was because he went off quicker than everyone else, obviously, but also because Frederick Dubé, after he got off the ski, I think only 7 seconds behind Hunter, he went the wrong way, and so he didn't go out the out. He ran all the way up to the in, and then had to come back. And so I left the ski. So I started quite quick for me. I think it must have been about a 3:37 pace, 3:36 pace, just because trying something new, see if I can hold on. But I went out quite quick into the ski in single figures. I came into the ski in single figures. I think it was 8th coming into the ski, which I've never done before. So anyway, came in ski 8th. And then when I came out the ski, I think 5th or something like that, Frederick passed me on that run. And I was so confused because I was like, I know I wasn't ahead of Frederick going out of the ski, so what the heck happened? But then I just put that out of my mind. Turns out he ran the wrong way and lost about 15, 20 seconds. I videoed you running ahead of Frederick Dubé, which is both gratifying and confusing, but now I know why. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully next time it will be because I'm actually better than him, not because, he ran the wrong way.
Whatever it takes, man.
Yeah, push felt, whatever it takes. False hope, but, still hope. Push felt heavy. They say Americans have always been claiming that, Europeans have easier sleds, and, recent events in Warsaw haven't exactly disproved that point. But the sleds in America didn't feel crazy, but I maybe it's placebo because I had that in my head, but it felt definitely heavier. I mean, the stats don't lie. I was 25 seconds slower on the push in Miami than I was in Glasgow. And
which is a month earlier.
I didn't get any weaker in that time. If anything, I got a little bit stronger. So could be other factors at play, of course. But, I love heavy sleds. And if everyone's feels sticky, perfect, brilliant, bring it all in. But anyway, the sled was fine. It was slow time on the push. I've gotten a slow time a couple times on the push, so definitely need to be something that I want to consciously work on. I think I came into the push 4th and left it either 4th or 3rd. So I was still 3rd. So I was still front of the pack at that point, left 3rd. So this was already at this point. I've never come into a push 3rd in anything, no matter if it's just the first wave, the second wave, the third wave. I've never come in this high up. So it was all kind of foreign to me. And it's sort of just at that point in my head, I'm like waiting for 8 people to pass me on the next run. Because in terms of, my weaknesses, running and burpees are up there. So I'm always expecting to get past. But I didn't going into the poll where I think I was still 3rd and came out 3rd only because I think I got the second best pull on the day. Actually, pull is proven to be definitely my strongest station. I think I got 3 low. Like I'm normally, if it's a really heavy sled, I'll get 3 low, and if it's a normal sled or a quick sled, I'll get 2 50s. So sled's always very good for me in terms of the pull.
And by the pull, that was when there was really, it was a race. Well, Hunter was on his own basically, and then a fair way behind him was Dubé, and then the real interesting race from a spectator point of view for the rest of the race from the pull on was you against Jack Driscoll, because Dubé had a clear lead on you again by that point, which he never really extended the rest of the race, but he held that lead in a way that you couldn't just chase him down, because you and Jack were competing against each other, and then there was quite a long gap behind Jack to the next guy. So it really was kind of a race in chunks. It was just watching Hunt, although again, you know, with the whole fast start thing, he did extend his lead and he won it by almost a couple of minutes in the end, but he had most of that couple of minutes lead by the end of the pull.
Well, he won it by 45 seconds. So
it was less than I thought. Okay. Yeah, so he lost ground at the back end, which makes sense with Dubé's strengths. But yeah, it became apparent that the psychological element of how Hunter races people, which he just tries to bury everyone early. And you know, back in the day,
sorry, you were right. I think it's a minute 45 seconds. You were right.
Right. So yeah, he just the whole idea of burying people early kind of makes sense, and I can see how it works, because especially, you know, when you bigger guys go out really quick. I mean, you know, you're bigger than Hunter, but you know, anytime you've got a guy big and quick relative to other people, it's quite intimidating. And once he's 30 seconds ahead, it's almost like you can't really chase. You have to go, you know, that when you're behind someone, you can chase them. And if they're too far ahead of you, you can't chase them anymore. You just have to go, okay, I'm back to my own race, and I hope I somehow catch them up. And that's what he does. But you all caught him up a little bit towards the back end. So yeah, by the pull, it's the Hunter on his own, Dubé on his own, and then you and Jack. And then how
which
that
was kind of surreal, because
that.
Yeah, it was quite surreal, because I've been watching Jack on YouTube and, you know, been a follower of his and a fan of his for probably consistently a year now. And then, you know, it's sort of lining up in the start tunnel with him, talking to him in the warm-up area with him, you know, and then, you know, I'll tell you how it finishes up in a bit, but it's sort of cool racing with, you know, and then even to a bigger scale, Hunter at the front of the race. It's like, I'm now racing with you. I was watching you on YouTube 2 years ago, and now I'm, you know, at the front of the wave with you. It's kind of awesome. But yeah, we went into burpees, and Jack, I think, came into burpees maybe 8-9 seconds behind me, and ended up finishing maybe 4 seconds ahead of me, which I knew would happen. Jack's got decent burpees. He's around that 230 mark. I'm consistently anywhere from 245 to 250. So I knew he'd catch me up on the burpees a little bit. And if I pushed a station like the burpees, which for me is the most taxing, it would only result in my back end of the race that's consistently a strength now becoming not a strength, where I need it to be, because the front end of the race is where I'm sort of losing time. And then say come row onwards is where I make up the time. So I need that to continue being a strength. And if I was to push my weakness, then that would just take away from that. So I let him sort of take me over a little bit. Could I have beaten him? Yes, but would it have been worth it? No. So he beat me out the burpees by 4 or 5 seconds and pretty much held that same gap. So I kept up with him on the runs, which is what I was super stoked about. My running in Miami was the quickest it's ever been. Run plus rocks. So like including the transitions and everything was 3:45 per kilometer, which is the lower end of what I run my thresholds at, but still what I run my thresholds at. So super happy to be able to keep it like that. It's partially why like I can beat these 14-15 minute 5K runners, is because my quote unquote compromised running is really good. And compared to my threshold pace, my Hyrox is almost exactly the same, which ideally it is. So came into the row about 5-6 seconds.
Just to be clear for non hardcore Hyroxers, compromise running, meaning that although Jude might be significantly slower at the 5K, especially than people who weigh like 30 kilos less than him and are 6 inches shorter than him, compromised running being what can you do with the stations after running? So what can you do after and before running, and how much does that affect your running? So these guys might be doing a 14.5 5K versus Jude's 17 low. Is it you at the moment?
16 mid to high.
16 mid. So quite a bit slower, like 15% slower, but you can quite comfortably beat a lot of these guys, because when they stop running, they can't then do the heavy stations, whereas you've become very adept at that bit. So yeah. So say you kept up with Jack somewhat on the first half of the burpees, and then weren't desperate to keep up with him when he pulled away on the second half of the burpees. Farmer's carry is farmer's carry. No one really puts a move on anyone there unless they're Sean Noble.
But we do the row first, right?
No, you don't. You skip straight to farmer's carry and then you back into the row. That's why both of you got penalised 5 minutes.
That's why I'm a co-host.
But again, the row isn't a differentiator, is it? I mean, not with Jack, certainly. He's got what was Jack's row time? I don't remember that.
As a blanket statement, no, the ergs aren't a separator or shouldn't be a separator just because the reward for going a little bit quicker is quite low compared to the risk. But the higher up you get, obviously, the more everything becomes a factor. And so at my level, I'd like to think everything is a separator. You know, you can make up. And I think I made up on Jack about 8 seconds on the row, 6 or 7 seconds on the row.
Pretty big chunk.
Because I was holding 145, 146. He was holding at the back end 50, 51. I don't know what his average was, but I'd say his average was about a 49. So I made up about 6, 7, or 8 seconds on the row altogether on him, which, you know, is huge. Like, you know, that's 3 wall balls, that's 4 wall balls. So I ended up coming out the row just 1 second ahead of him. So I made up all that time back on burpees that I lost, came out the row ahead of him, and kept that on the run again, which I was super surprised and happy about. He probably wasn't having his best race. He's ran quicker times before, but it's just racing what you can on the day. So, you know, you just got to disregard that and just run what you can on the day. And went into farmers, and I think I even made the gap a little bit bigger because I came into farmers, and I remember it was the classic 2 laps. So I'd gone all the way down, and I'd come back on myself after the first 50 meters and seen him about halfway. So I had about 20 to 30 meters on him in the first bit of the farmers, and then maybe stretch that to 20 to around the upper end of 30 at the end of it. Because farmers is a decent station for me. It has to be if I'm, 95 kg. You know, the weights are 2/3 of my weight, so I should be able to carry them quite quickly compared to some of the lighter guys. And then came out, like I said, maybe 10 seconds ahead of him after the farmers into the lunges, and then sort of me and him, I think, came into the lunges around the same time. So he made up a lot of time on that run, whereas I was just staying consistent. So we came into the lunges. I think he was maybe 1 step ahead of me because he got to the bag before me. So I sort of had to awkwardly wait behind him, grab my bag, and then go. And then I kept up with him all the way on the lunges, and I was feeling fine. Like, I was talking to people on the sideline, which I'd never done before. I was talking to him, talking to Jack, who was too locked in. I think either he ignored me or he just didn't want to talk. And I was like, fair enough. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't think a normal person wants to talk during a lunge. That's not normal behavior.
No, I don't know. I think I just had a bunch of adrenaline being like, I'm next to Jack Driscoll and I'm keeping up with him on his best station. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I was just super stoked to be there, to be honest. I was talking to a few people before, well, a few people being my mum, who wanted me to go out quicker. So why not listen to her? So I was just waiting for it to hit me like a wall, and it didn't. Because although I went out quite
don't
quick,
say that. Then she'll double down and say you should go
crazy.
super quick next time. You can't say that.
Maybe Barcelona will start out at 3:30s.
You have to say that the first run cost you, and it's mum's fault.
It did. That's the reason I didn't beat Hunter, actually,
there we go.
In the end.
There we go.
Yeah, so the lunges went well. I think I ended up actually 1 or 2 steps ahead of him, so I made up time on him. I think the lunges for me were about a 2:43, 2:44. So one of my quicker ones, and I felt fine doing it. Like, I didn't want to push it anymore because I was probably muscularly right on the edge of where I could come in to do wall balls and still do them unbroken. But went into wall balls. I think I had a 5 or 6 second lead on him.
You had a 4-rep lead on him. So
okay.
I filmed all of that one, and you had a 4-rep lead, and it was fascinating watching it because his cadence was like 5% quicker than yours. Literally, I think about 5%. I think he did, but so he got to within 2 of you in the first 40 reps, something like that. But then you had, I think your first rep was a no rep, which let him in a little bit. But after that, he caught up 1 rep in 20 or 30 purely on cadence. And then he had 2 no reps in the space of 15 or 20. And so by the 60s or 70s, the gap was back up to 4. Because by 50 or 60, when he got within 2 and it was shading towards under 2, me and your mum are both like, Jack's not breaking. His cadence is tiny bit better than Jude's. And Jude's got, you've basically got robot cadence. I mean, nothing changes at all. And presumably if you tried to speed up, the wheels would fall off because you're not exactly chilling out there. You can't, just randomly accelerate.
Yeah, that's the thing with the wall balls. Like, for me, I went in I always go in thinking I can do them unbroken. I never go in knowing I can do them unbroken. I think if you go into wall balls without a single percentage of doubt, knowing that you're going to break, you've run too slow for the previous end of the race. I think there has to be some doubt in there.
It's a very scary thought.
So yeah, it's always there's always a part of me that's like, well, I went in knowing Jack wasn't going to break because that's his thing. He smashes the lunges and then does the wall balls unbroken and takes the win every time.
When I go into lunges, I'm fairly sure I'm going to break. The question is, will I break after 5 or 6 reps?
Yeah, well, it's not your life and you're not 23 years old, so you've got somewhat of an excuse, So yeah, I went in knowing, even with 4 ahead, I was like, if I don't do them unbroken, I'm not going to get a podium spot. And I'm quite a pessimistic person in general. And when it comes to racing, sometimes maybe that's at a disadvantage because I went in 4 reps ahead knowing he was going to beat me for some reason. I'm just very pessimistic. Like I get easily put off at the start. I'm like, he looks better than me. He looks better than me. He looks better than me. Even though I end up beating all the guys that I think that about, obviously, unless I know them, like Hunter and stuff like that. But it hasn't seemed to have cost me yet with that mentality. Maybe I'm just a pessimistic person, but I can carry through anyway. But the point was, I came in 4 ahead of him, and
so this
ended
is the
up
battle,
beating
this is
him
the battle
by
for 3rd.
Yeah, this is the battle for 3rd. Frederick finished, and once I made that 6 rep separation at about that 80 mark, once I hit 80, I can't see a world unless my body physically fails me that I'm ever going to drop the ball. Usually it's 75.
Yeah.
So like I know once I hit 75, you've basically got 25 air squats to do with a 9 kg weight. Pick up a 9 kg weight and tell me how heavy that is. My grandma picks up 9 kg weights from the bird basket and puts it, like anyone can do that. And you just got to be, for me, my mentality, I'm very good at being very harsh on myself. So I respond really well to harsh criticism. And like 25 reps ago, I'm like, if you drop this ball, you are so weak. Like mentally, all you have to do, your job is right now. The hardest part of your job is right now. And the bit that separates you from a good athlete to a great athlete is 25 reps. If you cannot do 25 reps, what are you doing? It's 9 kg, it's 25 reps. And this is what people are counting on you to do. Is not drop the ball for the next 45 to 50 seconds.
So maybe next time we're at wall balls, rather than screaming, let's go Jude at you relentlessly, maybe I should be screaming at you, if you drop this, what are you even doing here? Something like that.
Well, yeah, it's like I respond really well to very explicit language screamed at me at max volume. I don't know why. It's just harsh reality or harsh words. I respond really well to. Yeah, you know what? I'm not weak. I'm going to do it. Or it just really motivates me. It's like, that's so true. Why don't be weak?
My son Jude is a loser. Would that help if I put that through a megaphone?
Well, that's not really like. I've not dropped the ball yet, so I'm not.
Well, maybe if I just shout, my son Jude is a loser who's almost certainly about to drop the ball. Or I don't think my son can beat your son. Or my son sucks. Or Jude's a donut or something.
No, that just seems a bit mean. I mean, like, helpful, harsh criticism. It's like, don't you dare drop
Jude,
that ball.
You're too weak.
25 left,
Jude,
20
you
left.
Suck.
Yeah.
Your quads are trash.
In DECA, when I won the under 24s, hearing, like, I was racing a guy called Alex Golick, who was, I think, 3 times world champion for our age group before I got into DECA, and hearing his friends say, oh, Jude's fading, or you're catching him on this length, was like perfect. It's like, awesome. Now he's not ever going to catch me. And so it's just in my head, there's like a block and I can just go. I can push through it. So I think once I hit 75 wall balls, unless I physically pull a muscle or break something, I'm never dropping the ball. And at 80 is when I can safely increase my cadence to whatever I can physically push myself to. So even if I'm at 100% mentally or physically, you're never actually at 100%. So when I hit 80, I'm able to increase my cadence. So I know I even have a 6th gear after 80 reps if someone's within 2 reps of me ahead of me. I think, okay, there's still hope. Even if their cadence is faster, I still have a 6th gear no matter what. And at 80, that's kind of what I did to stretch that to 6 reps, was just, okay, 6th gear, go. And I know I can do 20 reps, like, no matter what, almost. So I ended up beating Jack by maybe 12 seconds, 15 seconds. And it was just, at that point in my quote unquote career, it was kind of surreal. It was like a new PB by 1 minute and 8 seconds over Glasgow. It wasn't a quick course. It was a normal course, but Glasgow was definitely on the slower end, as everyone said. You also had stuff like Hunter after the race. in his YouTube being like, I have never felt better during or before a race. I've never felt fitter in my life. And he was 45 seconds off his world record, or 35 seconds off his world record that he set 2 years ago. So I know it wasn't a quick course. It was a very standard course. It was just laid out well. The atmosphere was good inside. And I was really happy with how it went.
Cool. So from Miami then to Macclesfield, where
logically
you did, well, logically and inevitably. So yeah, we weren't sure whether to have you do a tour of all cities beginning with M or a tour of Spanish-speaking cities. So Macclesfield was your Deadly Dozen debut, and that went quite well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this was sort of a new event for me. Deadly Dozen, we've done an episode about it before. So if you go back through our episodes and find the one that we did with Jason Curtis, that will explain what Deadly Dozen is. It's basically 12 400-meter runs. After each of them, there's they call them labors or stations, and they're all dumbbell or kettlebell based. Yeah. So it's a very accessible event, very easy to do from your home gym. That's sort of one of their marketing points. And it's sort of, although I've never specifically trained for it, obviously you can't have these athletes coming in and say, I've never trained for the sport ever in my life. Technically that's true, but we've been doing stuff that transfers over quite well to almost any hybrid sport. So I have been training in a sense, but just I've never practiced the specific movements themselves in any sort of capacity.
Or you've trained,
so it was kind of all new to me.
You've trained something similar for most of them, except with the notable exception of the bear crawl.
Yeah, and that was their idea, putting that in as well.
Yeah, and it's particularly good because there was quite a bit of footage of you, and most of the recurring footage from Deadly Dozen Macclesfield is of you either being pulled back from starting your bear crawl wrong, or literally there on all fours asking a judge how many times you're supposed to be going.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, so I mean, unless you're David Parkin, I don't know who the heck trains for bear crawl. If you do, you're either a Deadly Dozen athlete or you're just weird, or you're in the army.
Yeah.
So you're one of those three things.
Yeah.
It was just a cool new event. I went in with zero pressure. I've just done Malaga the week before. I've got Barcelona from that point. Miami. I've got Barcelona at that point in 4 weeks' time. Just go out, just go as hard as I can and just see how I do. And the only reason I thought I could win the event was because David Parkin was doing the doubles that day. And he is just, I challenge anyone in the world to try and beat him at that event, because you won't ever beat him at that event. He's just one of those guys.
Bearing in mind, if you think that, Dave Parkin's not a big Hyrox name, that surely a whole bunch of Hyroxers could beat him, that James Kelly is minutes off Dave Parkin's time. So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was able, so I went to the event, and the 400-meter runs felt obviously used to Hyrox training, and my threshold training now has been in longer blocks. So, instead of the 4 or 5 minute repeats and thresholds, Chris Baines, my new coach, has been getting me used to sort of 9-10 minute intervals with like 90 seconds of rest. And so that at threshold coming down to 400 meters is really short, but it does mean that I had to push it. So I think my average pace, which also I was really happy about on the runs, was mid 330s, low 330s, mid 330s per kilometer. Obviously it's only 500 meters, but it was still good to know that I had that pace in the locker, even though it's a continuous event for about 40 minutes. So yeah, I think if I just go through the notable stations, Farmers Carry is first, which meant that wasn't too bad, to be honest. The only thing is, it's done on a track around the outside, and on the inside is the grass. So all the footing is uneven. But they do for the stationary stations, if you know what I mean, with the static deadlift, with the static goblet squats, anything that has you standing still, they put down a black mat. The only thing I have about the event was that I was doing a little bit of a deficit deadlift, meaning that because the piece of the ground that I was touching the kettlebell to had been used quite often that morning, there was a hole in the ground, and so I was going lower than I should have. But just minor things like that.
You did look drunk on the Farmers Carry, if that helps.
Did I?
Yeah.
Why did I look drunk?
Well, just what you said. The ground.
Because of where I was moving.
No, just the ground. Well, the ground's uneven. That's probably your excuse. But you basically did just look drunk doing Farmers Carry. So I'm quite surprised you did it all well.
Well, that's unfortunate because it was the first labor.
Yeah.
So
you were lulling them all into a false sense of security. You ran slowly and then you looked drunk. We'll all beat him, but then none of them did.
Tough. None of them did.
No.
Good spoiler. Yeah. So I ended up winning the event, but the bear crawl was definitely the hardest. I think it's 120 meters of bear crawl, which is just running on all fours, which is the weirdest thing in the world. The better you are as a hybrid athlete or as an athlete, the weirder you look doing it, because you just look so out of your depth. And it's true. All of us looked out of our depth doing that station, and it was weird. And
Danny Ray was there as well,
it's not
who a lot of people know.
Yeah. Yeah, Danny Ray. Ben Key, I think, was one of the top contenders there as well. John Dean. But yeah, it was just awesome to be able to run a hybrid fitness event that I'd never done before, because I love racing. I don't just love Hyrox, I love racing. Obviously, I'd probably get that from you. You've always been quite competitive. You love the sort of racing aspect of marathons, of even on the Zwift on the bike, like any sort of competition to beat other people. We're quite externally motivated, which some people bash, but I think is really helpful. I think whatever helps you better yourself is beneficial. I don't think you can label anything as bad, but yeah, I think that was super good. Also, with Deadly Dozen, because of the nature of the stations, it does benefit you to be shorter because of lever lengths. And so, for example, with push press, your arms have to be fully extended. If someone's arm is 5 inches shorter than someone else's, they have less distance to extend. Therefore, each rep takes less time, which is partially why David Parkin is better than me. Do I think that if I was his height, I'd be better than him? No, I think he'd still be better than me. But to some extent, the shorter you are, the less time each rep will take. And so that compounds.
Smaller.
Yeah, maybe the gap would be smaller. But you've got your stations that favor you. So for me, lunges went well. I think I won the lunges quite comfortably, just because you can take longer steps, longer strides and everything like that. Ended up coming in 39.44, I believe. So I think now, I don't think I've told you this. Unfortunately, I'm now ranked number 3 in the world. Yeah. So one of the guys that actually beat in Glasgow in Hyrox, Mick Stee, who I talked to after, a really nice guy, he ended up getting 39.34, I think. So he beat me by about 10 seconds. So I'm now ranked 3rd in the world for Deadly Dozen.
Still ahead of James Kelly.
Ahead of James Kelly.
There we go. Yeah.
So
yeah,
we both beat James Kelly, which is kind of cool.
So at the finish of the race, then you were the second person ever to beat 40 minutes after Dave Parkin. You had the second fastest time in history. You now have the 3rd, which still puts you in prime place. Now, unfortunately, you can't make the Deadly UK Championships in May, but you're all booked in for first weekend in September at the Deadly Dozen World Championships, which should be pretty cool. So definitely going to make some space for that in the calendar.
Yeah, I think for me, the reason I liked it, like, although the stations don't favor me anatomically or biomechanically, I liked it because it's more of a station-focused event than it is running. Because I think your percentage of station time versus running time compared to a Hyrox is much higher. And so I'm not sure the exact percentage, but I'd muster to say 60% stations. So 60 to even 65%. So I think that's what I liked. I'm not as quick as some of these guys. So I make my moves on the stations where even if it doesn't favor me, I can still compensate that because my muscular endurance is at quite a high level. So really enjoyed it. It was a solo trip for me, though. I made the journey down on the train. Stayed there at a hotel overnight. You and Mum weren't able to make it, but it was a really well put together, fun event. And met some cool people. Shout out Rachel Hodgkinson, who won both the doubles and the solos, and also did well in Malaga with me. That we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, really, really well done from her. And the media team as well was great.
And lost my luggage.
And
Well, lost your luggage in my suitcase.
This is a hybrid fitness podcast, not bash Jude's memory and this organization. All right, so
I think it's both. I like to think that we have room for bashing all kinds of aspects of your character.
Okay, you get 30 seconds of airtime on this topic. I left the competition.
I was moving on. I was moving on, but if you want to get back to it.
I left the competition. I went to train with someone that messaged me in the Hyrox space, Lucas Parker, nice guy. Went to train with him. Realized I forgot my suitcase. Went back to the stadium, grabbed my suitcase, went to the station. Left the station, realized I forgot my suitcase on the train. Didn't go back because it was too late. Called them. We don't have it. So your suitcase and a lot of my clothing is gone.
Brilliant.
Happy?
Brilliant. I'm ecstatic. So from Miami to Macclesfield to Malaga.
So, do you kind of want to explain the venue from your perspective, how Zaid's and your race went, how you thought about it as a whole?
Yeah, very different to Miami. Every course is the exact same length, we believe, and I trust that they're all exactly the same length, technically speaking. But this felt really cozy. So it was a much smaller hall, which meant the ceilings were lower, which meant I'm sure some of the people later in the day had a bit more of a struggle with humidity than we did because we all ran in the morning.
Even ours, I felt, was quite bad. Like, I was dripping on the sled push, which I'm normally not, but I felt bad for the person coming after me. It was bad.
I would feel bad for the person coming after you on any of your stations, Jude. But yeah, I'm sure that was pretty rough. Yeah, there were lots of glistening people, but I liked the venue. I thought it was nice. I didn't like. And you point when you saw the course map. I think it wasn't until like the day before, or 2 days before, you saw on the course map that the running in itself was fine, but coming out of the station, I'm just picturing coming out of the skis. You go to the end of the ski, you take a turn, then you take another turn, then take another turn, then you take another turn, and then you leave. And so everything is the correct distance, and there's nothing wrong with all those turns. You just add half a second at 3 extra turns. So that's, maybe that's 2 seconds on that particular on that one exit, and you multiply that, and then you've got six. You lose, let's say, 16 seconds over the 8 stations, but then you add on to that the acceleration and deceleration time. Yeah. Anyway, it's just one of those where you go, nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine. It's not an unfair course, and your natural thought is, okay, I'm not going to be particularly quick here, or unlikely to PB. But for me, given I'm dealing with PBs in minutes rather than seconds, I didn't care, and I was quite happy with a smaller looking course.
Yeah, I think definitely the rock zone was the first thing I noticed. The stations 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 were quite logical, but 1 through 3, you had an extra, like you said, an extra few turns that I saw that, and immediately in my head, again, maybe pessimistic, maybe just being realistic, was okay. It's not a PB course, so it's just sort of go out there.
For the record, spoiler, pessimistic, not realistic. Just
okay, pessimistic. Spoiler, it did. Not sort of play out that way with either of us, but yeah, carry on.
Well, it didn't. I mean, the way I have been recently. So I went into it, and again, I was surprised in Miami that I felt relatively in control of things, and I think that was more true in Malaga. That I felt very much in control of what was going on at the stations. I didn't feel like I was. I think my first race in Warsaw last year, I completely blew up at the sled push. And there's footage of me leaving the sled that you took of me leaving the sled push in Warsaw, and I can barely walk because I've just done the classic, wow, this is fun, I like this, let's do this until I can't, and then it's a hot mess. And interestingly, during the pull in this race, I was running next to a guy, I think he was Irish, I'm not sure, just a really well built guy, massive arms, and I was doing my kind of old man sled pull thing, and
you had good technique, or you have good technique normally.
Well, thank you. But he went past me like a train because he was just using his arms, just planted his feet, massive biceps, pulled the thing one length, and I was like in awe of it. He's getting near the end of his second length, and I just turned to him and saying, "I just like watching you pulling the sled. It's so impressive." He's like, "Oh, thanks, mate." Which then got a little bit awkward because he completely blew up his biceps. So by the third length, he was gasping for air, and by midway through the fourth and final length, I'd caught him up. So I actually beat him out of the sled pull, which, I almost wanted to wait for him because then it made me feel a bit silly for complimenting his style because it was quite bad, as it turns out, for him. And, back in like 5 years ago, lots of people were doing what he did, but you can't really do that now. This is the Open. It's not even pro weights. This guy had massive arms. I mean, he wasn't just some chubby dude who's got a lot of fat on top of a little bit of muscle. So anyway, that was all good, and I just felt in control of everything else. I didn't put down the kettlebells and the farmer's carrier, which I'm happy about. I paced the row perfectly fine. There was nothing to be happy or sad about on the row. The lunges weren't an existential crisis like they sometimes are, and the wall ball.
No knee issues?
Well, I have to point my knee in a certain direction. So yeah, I had a couple of right knee kind of sharp pains, and then if I find if I get my toes pointed in precisely the right angle, it goes away. So actually, I had more pain on the pull, and you were telling me that might have more to do with whether I'm kind of more forefoot heavy or heel heavy. But I had some pain on the pull that I was a little bit concerned about. That
basically placing your weight on your heels, your toes has different effects on the side of your body that it loads. So if you put all your pressure through your toes, it's going to anterior load, and so you're going to get more pressure through your tibialis, through your quads. Whereas if you press through your heels and drive through your heels, that's going to overload your posterior chains, so your glutes and your hamstrings. So like if you get pain on one muscle or the other, sometimes, depending, it might work as to where you focus your pressure through the ground. So it's just little things like that.
Well, the GoWOD mobility app tells me I have the posterior chain capabilities of a day-old sparrow. So I'm slightly surprised that I struggled with my quads even more, but there we go. every time I go into it, it says, so you're working on the posterior chain then? I'm like, I don't really know. I'm just trying to warm up for Hyrox.
Your calves are part of your posterior chain, right?
Are they?
Yeah.
There we go. That's what I should be using for everything.
They mainly mean your hamstrings and glutes. So
yeah, my bacon rope isn't that great. So yeah. So anyways, that was fine. And then the wall balls, I came in. Yes. So me and Zaid did a little bit of running together because he'd finished before me. And
Zaid being, if you haven't watched an episode before, my best mate who comes to a lot of my Hyroxes, but this was his first solo event.
Yeah.
That he's not going to like me when I say this, kind of training for. So yeah,
he's doing the London Marathon in a few days. So he's, understandably slightly distracted from his Hyrox training with having to churn out ridiculous number of miles that I'm not jealous about at all. And that's not sarcasm. I'm very happy not to be doing that training anymore. But yeah, so anyway, so we were both kind of having our struggle sessions through the wall balls. But I've just find mine. His looked like my first ones felt, which is you just do your best and you don't really know how big your sets need to be and how long your breaks need to be until you've hit the wall 15 times doing it once. So it's almost like I kind of feel like the first time you do Hyrox, the wall balls is like, don't go to failure. But beyond that, you don't know what you're doing because you've never done it unless you've trained very specifically for quite a long time.
Yeah, like Zayd's been training me for a while now, and a lot of people are in his same boat, which may be like you go into a Hyrox. He's never done more volume in that respect than a half sim. So he's done 2 half Hyrox sims, exact half distances of everything. That is the most endurance or the most he's done back to back ever. He's run a few 25-kilometer runs with a few breaks here and there, but he's never moved consistently for more than a half sim. And so the fact that he was able to sort of like do this in its entirety was quite impressive, just because his body's like, I've not, last time I did this was, So he was very inexperienced in that respect. So yeah.
Yeah, so I did feel that I had a significant advantage with that being my fourth and having done 2 weeks earlier, that I thought, I was adjusting my limit, so I was going for 5 or 6 reps. It feels pathetic saying it out, or sounds pathetic to say it out loud, but like 12 to 15 second break in between my sets of 5 or 6, and then when I get to about 90, I've got you in my head, not in my ears, because on this occasion, you were running at the same time as me. But I've just got you cussing me out on the podcast 15 times for breaking at 94. So I can't do that anymore because 94 feels like
there's
a great
a reason
place.
that I do it, because it works.
94 is a wonderful place to break. You can have a pause. You can go, look at that. I'm only 6 away, and just enjoy the moment. And then go the last. So this time I got to 87. And then I missed through. I hit the target, but I missed through it slightly. So the ball went in front of me and I didn't catch it because I'd hurt myself. So that was at 90, and that was like, okay, I definitely can't break between 90 and 100. So I didn't, and it felt fine. It felt great. I mean, I'd say, I would love wall balls to become, relatively speaking, a strength, because it seems such a dreadful thing to be doing after an hour and a half's worth of hard exercise, that because it's so painful, because it's so unpleasant. And because my heart rate spikes like crazy, I kind of feel like, right, that's so awful. Let's make that into a strength. So that's why I'm hoping in a year or two becomes kind of a thing that I can do a bit of a mini Jude at the back end for Hyrox for once.
And if you want amazing wall balls, sign up with JR Hybrid Coaching.
Sorry, did I not say that? If you want amazing wall balls, sign up with JR Hybrid Coaching. Go to jr.hybrid fitness on Instagram and join the queue. There we go.
Thanks.
That would be a good note while we're paying respect to corporate partners, including one of the co-hosts, to bring in our sponsors, Wadley. So the whole podcast is sponsored by Wadley. Although actually, I think the whole podcast should be sponsored by jr.hybrid fitness. I think you need to start subsidizing the podcast. You haven't done that, so that's disappointing.
With my plethora of funds.
With your plethora of funds that you need to start, being more generous with. But anyway, big thank you to Wadley.
Hybrid Fitness Report is sponsored by Wadleat, a UK-based sports apparel company. Wadleat's designs come from a love of functional fitness, helping you to build strength, mobility, stability, and endurance while staying comfortable in what you wear. So from performance base layers to changing robes, from gym shorts to hoodies, and training socks to track jackets, Wadleat have got you covered. Head to wadleat.co.uk, that's WODLETE.co.uk, with free delivery on all UK orders over £50 and worldwide shipping available.
So the other weird thing, before we get on to how your actual Malaga race went on, the weird thing about, or a couple of weird things about Malaga was unfortunately we weren't able to watch each other race. Well, you could watch Zaid's ski and sled push, and you could see my ski. So there's one bit of footage where you kind of videoing Zaid pushing and me skiing at one point, and then me shouting at Zaid while I'm running out from the ski and running past his push, which I don't think helped him tremendously. He didn't express. I think the way he put it was he left a little bit of his soul out there or something.
Yeah, his complaint was he was struggling by the second station, and my dad was smiling running past him with no issues. It was kind of how he saw it.
Yeah, my attempt to be helpful was entirely counterproductive, apparently. So anyway, so that was so Zaid started at 9:40, I started at 9:50, and then unfortunately for all of us, I think you then started at 10:50. So we're about an hour in, 2 hours. Then you start, and then slightly humiliating, you finish less than a quarter of an hour later. So and the other thing, sorry, I forgot to mention about the Malaga course is that it's the wrong direction. We've gone into the southern hemisphere or something, and the water's going the wrong way down the sink, down the plug hole. So yeah, we're all running clockwise. Is that clockwise?
We're running the opposite to what you would run round a track.
Yeah. So rather than anti-clockwise, which is what everyone does, apparently Malaga is in Australia, and so it reversed itself. So that was a little bit confusing.
Which little tip there is why if you do your track workouts, I would always do some of your reps running the wrong way. Not just because some tracks may be like that, but purely for an injury prevention standpoint. Your hips on track workouts get beat up more than almost any other running workout you'll do because you're going quicker and you're turning more than you will ever do. And so you overload one side of your hips. If you then never train the other side of your body to do the same thing, as soon as you get a bit of lateral imbalance, that's what's going to cause injury. And so I will always warm up and do half my working reps the opposite way around the track if sort of that's an option to do if the track's empty, because again, that will sort of build up your capacity muscularly for that not to be an issue. I still came out of Malaga feeling it a little bit, my body definitely wasn't like, oh, this is awesome, but definitely built up a bit of resistance to that my past few track sessions. So just compound that every time you go. Just remember you need to train both sides.
Okay. Cool, that's good advice. And so your advice, your race, going into it, who did you have your eye on? You were looking at Aaron Travers, who's built like a tank and runs like a gazelle. Who else did you have your eye on?
Yeah, like on that, I don't see myself as that tall. Like I'm objectively taller than the average. I'm 6'3", 6'4", but then I know I'm tall when I'll go up to someone and be like, whoa. And I'm not used to like looking up like I do at Aaron Travers, but he must be 6'6", 6'7", and he is probably 10, 15 kg heavier than me, 10 kg heavier than me. So, there's always, bigger fish. There's always someone with more excuse. I like to pull the excuse. I'm heavy and I'm tall. So, running and burpees aren't my thing. The dude's 3 inches taller than me and 10 kg heavier. So he has an even better excuse with that side of things. The dude's huge. He's also the 16 to 29 or 19 to 29 world record holder for the Skier Marathon. So he's got a good base on him in terms of cardiovascular proficiency. So I was looking at him, looking at Pablo Sanchez, looking at a couple of French guys who were over there actually. So it was decent field. It wasn't like a massively elite field or anything like that, but it was a good bunch. It had a good bunch of guys.
There were people there who could beat you. Aaron could beat you. Pablo could beat you. Sure. Yeah.
So went into it knowing that there was a chance to podium overall for the second time after Miami, but I didn't really consider anything past that. So went off on the first run, I think a record-breaking 27th into the ski. Yeah, so there was a whole line.
Bearing in mind, I'm on the track at the same time. So I was just saying, that was the thing. Because it was quite a condensed track, most people were running in the fast lane the whole time. And so you start to hear the music that, the first pro wave is about to come out. You hear that really cool music. So I'm limping around in my way. And I'm looking at how many people running like half the speed of half the pro wave, never mind you, but half the speed of half the pro wave are taking up the fast lane. And so I'm like doing my own running bit. And bearing in mind, I struggle to count to 3 when it comes to running laps. I completely lost count of where I was because I started shouting at people to get out the fast lane. I mean, not super obnoxiously, but just pointing out, clear the fast lane, pro wave's coming out. And then you had a couple of guys with what looked like aircraft light pointy things, trying to encourage people to get out of the fast wave. But I think if
fast lane marshals,
and I think if you run past the entrance with its, you got a bit of dry ice coming out, you got the loud music coming out, you go, oh, blimey, I better stay out of the way. I think for most people on the other side, they didn't know what was going on and had no need to worry about that kind of thing. And then as I passed the front of the tunnel, I kind of screamed at you, but you didn't hear me. And then I just thought, crap, I just need to get out of the way because I'm about to get completely run over. This could be a nightmare. So I just ended up running super wide. So it's your fault that I was 10 seconds slower than I should have been because I was running so wide to try and stay out of your way. So anyway.
Well, thank you for doing that.
So Aaron went off like a 105 kilo gazelle, and you went off like a 105 kilo gazelle that's just been shot.
Wow. Okay. That was my fastest run of the race, actually.
Was it? So, yikes. That is awkward.
Yes. I mean, on that, I came into the ski 27th, so I don't know what's up with that. I got sent to the whole other side. So it was a whole, it was a long row of skiers.
Yeah, you're behind a pillar, little zones. Special section of 4 for the remedial types like you and a couple of others at the back.
That was on the sleds.
I thought they were on the skis as well.
No. Yeah, no, on the skis there were just 2 long lines, and I'd never been so humble as to have to go to the opposite side. That's like getting booted out of the fast lane. You don't want that for your ego. So I got booted over to the other side of the skiers.
Bless your heart.
And I think the leader at that point, one of the Spanish guys, came out probably 160, 170 meters ahead of me. And it was just like, whoa.
At that point, I was like... Not literally 160 meters ahead of you, but you had 160 meters left on the ski erg when he left, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so, to be fair, in my head, I'm quite level-headed on the ski because the nerves at that point are gone. I'm really confident on the ski. And I'm pulling my comfortable 145s, 146s. I know I'm in a good spot. And I know that if I don't know who you are and you're beating me by 160 meters up the ski erg, I promise you I will see you later. So I wasn't really too worried at that point because, like I said, I know a lot about Hyrox and like who's good and the top end of the sport and everything. Like I said, if I don't know you, you're not going to beat me by that much. So they came off and I was like, right, okay, I'll give myself 4 stations to catch them. It took me 1. But came off the ski maybe 18th, 17th, because I came 3rd in the ski overall. So my ski didn't catch me up that many places, but it was I was one of the quickest ones in the day. I was 3rd overall.
Same car park as them anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and so they all went off, and I think the lead pack at that point had maybe 20 to 25 seconds on me.
They did.
Went out the ski.
I was counting. I was as you guys were streaming past me, and Aaron nearly kind of plowed his way through us, and I'm not in a bad way, but I was counting the seconds after these guys passed. I go, okay, Jude will be coming by. I know he's not. Jude will no, that's not. Dang, where is Jude? And then I was literally turning around going, where the heck is my son gone? And like, oh, there he is, way back over there.
Yeah, but the Spanish have a reputation for doing that. Like even in Deca, I got warned by many American athletes saying these Spanish go out fast, don't follow them. And so that must just be a thing in Spain, is that just Spanish athletes go out fast.
How do you say that? How do you say that in Spanish?
Don't put me on the spot.
How do you say Spanish?
Se van muy rápido.
Say that again. Spanish athletes go out fast.
I don't know how you phrase that. Los españoles se van muy rápido.
There we go. That's how it goes.
Maybe. There you go.
There we
go. So they go out really quick, and the push again, I think because of the high humidity, the friction on the sleds wasn't the best, and so my push was on the slower end. I still only took my 8 to worst case on the turnarounds, 10 seconds in between each push. So I'd push halfway, break, push to the end. Push back halfway, break, push to the end. And it was the same for the 4 lengths. I made up a lot. I made up, I think, 5 spots on the push where I came in maybe 15th, 16th, left around 10th. Then on the run, passing a few people. I didn't get passed after the first run by anyone. So anyone that I hadn't overtaken at that point, I was overtaking them. So I didn't get past once on any run.
All the Muy Rapido guys have slowed down by then.
Yeah, exactly, pronounced like that as well. So those are the ones that I caught up on the sleds and the run. And then I came into the pole nothing crazy. I think I must have come in around 8th or 9th and had the number one pull time of the day, which you can tell how slow the sleds are because I got the number one pull time, sled pull time of 3:10, 3:09. Whereas in Glasgow, it was 2:55 and I came like 4th. So, I mean, that's just evidence in itself. Yes, the athletes weren't quite as good as the ones I raced in Glasgow, but again, you don't lose 30 seconds.
But again,
on one station.
Aaron's not going to be hanging around on the sled pull either. So,
Yeah.
you know, if
he's someone who's got
not
10 kg on me.
Yeah. And it's a good 10 it's a good 10 kg. He's not wearing that round his belt.
Yeah. No, he's a strong guy. So yeah, the pull went really well. I'm always a fan of the pull. I've got my technique down. Rope management. The only thing for me with the sleds is in where I see the elites have an advantage, they always have a spare box next to them. So they have zero regard. They need zero regard for where they throw the rope, and it can just get way out their way. Whereas for me, I'm worried if I chuck it too far into the opponent's box, I'll get a penalty. So I have to place it really close to me, which means that the chance for me tripping on it on the way back is a lot higher. So that's just the thing that, you know, in age group racing isn't as optimal, but that was fine. Left the pull in, I think I must have been top 5 now at this point, maybe 4th, 5th. Went into the burpees, maybe a good 15, 20 meters behind Aaron Travers at this point, who I then caught up on the burpees, which for me is, you know, for lack of a better phrase, a foreign policy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that happened. To be fair to him, like I said, he's got 10 kg on me. He's got strengths and he's got weaknesses, which are oddly similar to mine. So 251 on the burpees, not my best. I don't really know why. I got 245 in Glasgow. Maybe that's just because the sleds felt a bit better in Glasgow. So I had a bit more on the burpees, but they didn't feel any different. 5 seconds on burpees is maybe, you know, 2 jumps, 1.5 jumps. So not too bothered about that. My technique for that I've got nailed down as well. I'm way more efficient at them than I was a year ago. I mean, night and day difference. I started out doing 420s, 430s for them, and now down to 245s, 250s. So very happy with that. And the run after burpees for me is always the same. The first lap sucks. Like, it sucks bad. But after that, I've conditioned myself to the point where if I'm running 345s, I can catch my breath a little bit. And so by the second lap, third lap, going into the row, I'm
well,
fine.
You as well.
That's normal. So it's just,
what is it with us skipping the rows?
I know. But yeah, so now I can recover at 345s. That's given me a lot of confidence coming out of the burpees, where it's just like, just fight, stay in there with the first lap. It's going to feel like you can't continue, but you will recover. So I've just got to keep that mentality switched on of just don't slow down. You've accustomed yourself to be able to recover at the pace, so just do it. And so now I know that. And then I went into the row 4th, so I overtook Aaron on that run there, which the dude is a 1:17 half marathon, I think. So again, it's like, yes, the majority of the field at my level will be better than me at pure running. In fact, if the majority, if not all of them, will be better than me. But my compromise is so consistent that almost no matter what I'm hit with, if I pace the stations well, I won't change my pace across the race. So unless it's a conscious decision to save energy for something, but you know what I mean in that respect. So it's quite consistent.
I do. None of the listeners have a clue what you're talking about. I understand you precisely.
Thank you. And then, no, sorry, I didn't take him over. I took over 2 other people, but came into the row behind Aaron. So I was 4th in the row. Then my transitions on the row, I've gotten really good because I noticed 2 races ago, I lost around 6 seconds on one race and 10 seconds on the other, purely through fiddling with the foot plate and the handle and the damper. So now my transition is almost nothing. I came in 6 seconds after Aaron and started rowing before him. And that's just through being efficient in your rowing transitions. Foot goes in, grab the handles, pull. When the fan is up to speed, then I tighten the foot straps, because as long as they're underneath the straps, you can grab the handle whenever. So came out there, I was pulling 146s, I think my average was, which is about the same as the ski, because although I am better at rowing than I am at skiing, I'm fatigued or compromised at that point. And so sort of it's a give and take in that respect. But probably my least challenging station, just because I'm very efficient at it and I don't push it super hard, like I said, with ergs being low reward for high effort, so I don't kill myself on that. Came out ahead of Aaron by maybe 2 seconds, and then just kept that lead. Into farmers, I was, I think, 50 to 60 meters behind the leader, Pablo Sanchez, at this point. I didn't even see him. I think he must have been laying closer to a minute ahead of me in terms of time, because I don't remember seeing him that much in the Farmers. I remember coming in, and you're at the front of the wave when everyone's looking at you. So I was going up the first length of the 50, and everyone was looking at me with worried faces because they were all Spanish supporting him and not knowing who the heck I am. So they were all very sort of concerned and very disapproving looks at me, apart from a few people who looked like they're British, so they were on my side. Seems very culty. I don't know why the Spanish is
Culty?
so like
Just
that,
nationalistic.
I don't know.
Nationalistic.
Yeah, nationalistic.
Yeah.
That's it. So it seemed very much like that. There was no abuse or anyone was saying anything like that or anything, but they just clearly supported one person in that race.
Yeah.
Came out the Farmers, didn't really see him. Went into the lunges, and it was sort of in no man's land from out of the Farmers to the wall balls, because Aaron was a substantial amount behind me, and I was a substantial amount behind Pablo. And so it was just sort of make up as much time as I can on the lunges, and I did. I think I must have come in 30 to 40 meters behind him and left with maybe he had 10 meters on me, so I made up a good amount of time on the lunges. Now, high results says I was 44th on the lunges, but
That's
you had
wrong.
people getting 6-second recorded chip times, 9-second recorded chip times, so the lunge sensors were messed up. My time was 2:50, so fairly standard for me. I remember in the race that I did before Miami, Vancouver, I had a 3-minute flat lunge time, and I'd never broken 3 minutes. And I said, from that moment forward, I know my unilateral muscular endurance and my muscular strength is way better than that. I need to be getting lower. Anything with weight on your back, anything with external load, I need to be better at if I'm 95 kg. I can't have people 15 kg lighter than me beating me on lunges. That's just not, I won't do well in this sport if that's the case. And so that's something that I've learned to push myself on, and consistently around that 245 to 250 mark. So fairly happy with that. Wasn't great, wasn't bad. And yeah, closed that gap to 10 meters, which he extended to maybe 30 seconds coming into the wall balls. Because I came into the wall balls, he had what, a 12 rep lead on me?
So this is where we switch perspectives. So by the time you are coming out of the lunges, I have Zaid and I have both finished. So Zaid finished a couple of minutes behind me, and we're both sat in the recovery zone. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, the recovery zone is right in front of the wall ball area. So me and Zaid can cheer you on from there. But then I was thinking, well, Rachel, your mum wants footage, and it'd be nice to have some footage of wall balls. And shall I? I'm knackered. I just want to sit down. But then the bag drop was just behind us, and I could see that there was no queue. And I'm like, I can't be bothered. I want to sit down. And what the heck? There's no queue. Went and got the bag. Tried to come back in, and they didn't want to let me back in the recovery zone. They did it in Miami, but they wouldn't let me this time. So I went behind one of the wall ball areas. You've got these great big containers, open-sided containers that they create, what they call the Thunderdome, which is slightly very cheesy. But, the viewing area for the wall balls, which is next to the wall balls, and watching schmoes do their thing. And then suddenly all the staff around there, all the judges there, and they got really tense and started almost like standing to attention in very specific spots. And I'm like, I think the pro leader's about to come in. And sure enough, about 10 seconds after that, or half a minute after that rather, Pablo comes in and goes all the way to the exact opposite of where I was. So he comes in, starts as well. Well, I immediately, insofar as I was capable at this point, given that I'd just done my own race, ran all the way round, probably about 80, 100 meters around all the various different areas to get to the same
80, 100 meters.
80 to 100 meters.
Oh.
To get to the same viewing area on the other side. So I was now directly behind Pablo. By the time I got there, you'd just arrived. So I think you were about 10 reps behind him going in. And what Zaid knew, Zaid was nearer a coma than anything else at this point, I think, was...
he's going to love listening to this.
Well, he didn't so much have DOMs as massive and overwhelming OMS.
Yeah.
So was it MOMS, maybe? Massive onset muscle soreness rather than delayed.
There we go.
He had MOMS. So anyway, so he's watching from back where I was planning on watching from. I'm standing at the side, started filming you, screaming my head off at you. Zaid said that actually the entire upper story of the viewing area was full of Pablo's fans. So there's a whole bunch of screaming people above. A Spanish lady next to me during a break in my screaming who asked who I was screaming at, and I pointed out, well, that's my son Jude. So she started saying, what did she say? You've got to pronounce it properly.
I don't even know how they pronounce my name. They just, whenever I introduce
It's
myself,
very
they say
soft.
Jude.
It's very soft J, and was it Wale?
Oh, Dale.
Dale Jude. That's Go Jude, is it?
It's like vamos, yeah.
Right. So when I wasn't screaming, she'd shout Dale Jude. So that was really nice. So anyway, so you then start off with a better cadence and obviously better cadence than Pablo, but there were no
wall ball counters.
Thank you. So it was purely judged. So the commentator kept going over to the judge saying how many they got and kept telling everyone in Spanish. Then he realised who I was, started doing some more of it in English. So how did it go with you at the wall balls then? So that's caught me up to where you were. So what went on for you?
Yeah, obviously that wasn't ideal. I knew coming in because someone on the X Endurance group chat had typed in there are no wall ball counters, so just remember that. And I remembered that, and then obviously wasn't thinking about that during the race. Came in and I was like, I'd really like to know how many he's on. And none of the judges were speaking behind us, so I didn't know. And I'm not good at, doing anything other than racing when I'm racing. So I can't really take in a lot of information, which means if I hear you while I'm racing, it means you've done an impressive job to make yourself heard, which you did at the wall balls. So I don't really register or take in anything. So I didn't really know where he was at. The only thing was, usually I'm a pretty good guesser as to what I think you're capable of at certain stations. And this dude has a sub 15-minute 5K. His running looked incredible. And I was like, you're probably not good at wall balls. So I went in, I was assuming around 10 to 20 behind him. I didn't know where. I was like, okay, I'm going to see where I'm at after doing 60 to 70 unbroken. And at that point, if he's not lessened the gap at all, it means that I was wrong. And this dude's, I should have known better who he was. So I think I got to around 60 when he dropped it. And I was like, right, he's dropped it once. I have a chance. And so I did the next 20. I was at 80, but at which point he dropped it twice. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm ahead now. And then I think I heard the commentator, because I was really listening at this point, and I heard him say in Spanish that I was 5 ahead. And I was like, right, okay, I've got him. And so I knew at 80,
the advantage at this point of your being fluent Spanish is that you could understand the commentary.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was basic numbers, but yeah, I was really listening for it. He did say I had 5 on him, so I knew at that point I'd won, and he looked pretty defeated. His brakes turned from 5 seconds to 8 seconds to 12 seconds, roundabout. I wasn't exactly counting, but yeah, I knew I had him with about 20 reps to go, which was cool. And I won't speak much about it, but I ended up beating him by around 30, 35 seconds. And was first on the overall leaderboard for about 45 minutes until I was subsequently awarded a minute penalty for I'll just briefly go over it for something. Turns out the fact that you were bothered in the end to grab your camera and video the entire thing was the only reason I could therefore send that to a judge and subsequently get that penalty revoked. And so I was in first, then I was in third with a misgiven penalty, and then after a lot, probably 3 hours of conversation with staff there, I got the penalty revoked and returned back to first. So I won the event overall in a 1 second PB of 56.42, which in my head means I would say, about 30 seconds better than I did in Miami 2 weeks prior, because the course was humid, didn't have favorable corners. And for the majority of that race, for like 3 of those stations, I had no one to fight against. Whereas in Miami, I had direct competition the entire way around. So I think I was really happy with it. I think a 1 second PB, in terms of my fitness, is way more than that. Like on paper, I got 1 second PB, but I think in terms of racing, I got about a 30 to 40 second PB. So super happy with how that race went. First overall win of hopefully many.
Yeah, that was kind of awesome. So the last month has kind of been kind of huge, really. I mean, you've made your first podium 2 weeks ago, and then your second podium was also
overall
your first
podium.
win. Yeah, so you had several first place age group flags, which depending on the field is often extremely predictable. And this one technically on paper was predictable. I mean, you were up there with Pablo and Aaron, but
even the guy that came second, I think he got, in my age group, he got 58 low. So, I mean, 2 years ago, that wins every event that you go to. But, I just came in with the 56.42, was it? And, that guy would have won in most other events. So it's just the standard now is just getting better, which is good because it brings, popularity, money, visibility, everything to the sport. So.
So an awesome event all round. And at that same event, so Macclesfield a week and a half ago, you and Rachel Hodgkinson won the male singles and the female singles, and then somewhat randomly in Malaga at Hyrox the week after, you both repeated the feat. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, I didn't even know she was there.
No.
I don't know how I didn't know, but Rachel won the pro women's solo in an insane time on that course of 101 mid, which I would argue to say for the men equivalent would be 55 mid to low.
Wow.
55 mid maybe. So I think in terms of female racing, she's the equivalent of about a minute ahead of me.
Right.
So she's
That's
very,
fantastic.
very good. I think she's a GB runner of some distance. So
Right.
she's got legs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else from Malaga before we wrap things up for this week?
That was a pretty long one, actually. That was a good catch up. No,
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So next up for you is in racing is Hyrox.
Next up for us.
Well, so next up for you is Hyrox singles in Barcelona, and next up for us is I'm making my doubles debut with Zaid, who's done a doubles with you. So we're also going to be in Barcelona. We're doing the open doubles, which I'm slightly scared about.
That could, either end in a newfound, even deeper connection than you already have, or pledge you as mortal enemies. I don't know. I'm really excited to watch how that pans out.
So yeah, I mean, Zaid's quicker than me at almost everything. It doesn't always necessarily do better than me at everything. I think that's fair to say. So as we had a conversation, Zaid asked Jude beforehand. He said, would you have me or your dad in doubles if you had to have just one of us? And me and you both immediately said Zaid, because his ceiling is way higher than mine.
Yeah, even though you beat him by 13 minutes. Like, it's just because you're so consistent. Like, you don't stop, whereas he'll go and stop and go and stop. Whereas you're just, I think your marathon backgrounds really helps you to just start at a sustainable pace and maintain that throughout, really.
I find a place where it's uncomfortable and unpleasant, and I just sit there for an hour and 40 minutes. That's how it goes. Awesome. And on that bombshell, and looking forward to getting back to speaking to folks next week rather than leaving it another 3 weeks. And next week we'll get back to our started and then lengthily paused series on how to excel at the various different hybrid fitness stations. Did you mention, Jude, we're going to be doing the pushes next week? So either the truck, the tank push, the sled push. So everything that you push in hybrid fitness racing, we'll be looking at next week, how to train for it, what it does to your body, and how to get quicker. So thanks very much for listening. I've been Paul Reynolds.
I've been Jude Reynolds.
We'll speak to you soon. Thanks and goodbye.